Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Just remember it.
Yeah. Are we staying here? No.
No.
You will be following the lady there and the cameraman.
Yeah.
Can I ask one more question? Did you say last week it was a human catastrophe?
I did.
Right. What? Did you say that in public or is that?
It's a public. It was a public announcement. Yeah.
So what you were saying?
You can quote me. Yeah.
Right. I mean, what way is it a human catastrophe? Just you can elaborate.
The austerity measures they have taken, and they were affecting 500,000 people. Each disabled person is losing between 2,000 and 3,000 pounds per year. People are pushed into work situations without being recognized as vulnerable, and the evidence we had in front of us was just overwhelming.
Okay. Thanks very much.
And also the neglect of the government to recognize that it is actually happening. I think that the government has been neglecting the fact that it has consequences to cut social expenditures, to change the legislation to not living up to its promises.
I will ask my colleague as rapporteur, because he was leading the transport committee. Thank you. We will write to you.
Tom has a couple of more questions. Is that okay? Can you continue the discussion in the other room?
Of work capacity more than a six-figure number of overturned decisions, where people were in the first instance that they were capable to work, and then it turned out that they weren't. So we're talking about dozens of thousands of persons whose rights have been denied, and it has been established in the due process of law afterwards that they were their rights were damaged.
Okay. We need the room for the filming, so I would encourage you to continue the discussion with the colleagues outside. Thank you.
Ja, ich brauche den Rechner. What will be the subject?
It's all the UK.
It's all the UK. Yes. Okay, then I need my...
Right, okay.
You need this one?
Yeah, can you open the concluding observations of UK? Last one.
You.
Okay.
Wait for the cameraman. I'm going to be guided by him about the blue is nice. Might have him move a little bit that way. But we'll wait. He's the eyes.
Yeah.
He says.
Any shadows in there?
No, and light switches are not so pleasant.
Very strong light.
And how long will the interview be?
I mean, it's for our News at 10, which is a news programme. So I'll ask you 3 or 4 questions, and each answer we're looking at kind of 20 to 30 seconds.
Okay, good.
Very, very, main points. It doesn't have to get into.
So I will make it for my 3 o'clock opening.
Oh
of the next session.
yes, of
Yes,
course.
okay.
Otherwise, you just.
Half an hour, would it?
No, it'll
No,
be
no,
about
no.
5 minutes.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I'm going to disturb you, but I'm just going to ask you if I can move you over a little bit.
it's fine.
Yeah.
You just tell me.
Because the blue is a nice
I prefer the blue, exactly.
Yeah.
The thing is I'm fighting a shadow, my shadow, which is just...
Bring that.
I'm not sure if I can read it as quickly as, for the answers in 20 seconds, but let's see. Maybe.
Well, I think with what I
it gives me some comfort.
You did say the UK was going backwards, so we're interested in hearing that. Interested in hearing the broad point of funding the austerity measures affecting this right to independent living, or the right to choose how you live. Those are a couple of the key things. And perhaps getting because it will be part of a report. We will also be talking to people affected in the UK. And so on. And so it's not as if you have to tell me everything that's in the report in the space of a short interview, certainly.
So, Imogen, when you're asking questions, could you make sure not to come into the image?
I'm terrible for that.
I'm sure you are.
I'm going to sit on my hands. Yes.
So it's just I'm really close to you there, so you can avoid doing that. And if you don't mind, I'll mic you up first. See who's running on the table.
You make me up.
I don't have any makeup. You...
No. I understood. You make me up. And I said, is he coming now with makeup?
No, but I can do, though I don't have any on you. But it's not a...
No, I don't.
It's a good point.
No, it's okay.
Not necessarily bad.
No, I just misunderstood. You said mic you up.
Okay, sorry.
And I understood he's going to come with makeup now, okay?
But I could have.
No, it's fine.
I'm just gonna...
Wow, you had a huge interest in Britain, Channel 4 as well.
Channel 4 also wants an interview with us tonight.
Well, they cut the budgets back so far back in Britain that so it's becoming news. But it's not new news. It's been going on for years now.
No, but it's up for dialogue at our stage now.
Today's the UN report.
Yeah.
I think...
that's the difference, yeah, exactly.
It's a peg to hang a very important issue.
You want to close the doors? Because there's noise coming in from the back.
Thank you.
It's probably good.
So that, do you want me to mic you up?
It might...
Because you're very close to here, but
Okay.
unless you're going to use it in your report.
What I might do is rip it off for radio, you see, where they would use...
So in that case, I will mic you up.
If you don't mind.
I have organised to bring a mic.
That's great, thanks.
Though I don't need to mic you up quite so tightly, so I'm just going to I'm just going to hand it to you like this, and I'll let you just put it somewhere so that it doesn't move or rub.
Yeah.
And I'll get another cable, and we're just about set.
What's your first name out of it? What's this?
Theresia.
Theresia.
In German it's Theresia Degener. It's very difficult, but it's fine if you call me Teresa. Everyone calls me Teresa.
Okay. So, and in fact, one of the things, because I follow the whole UN committee review process in different spheres quite a lot. You have asked the UK to come and report back in 12 months, which is quite an indication of concern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But we usually ask for a follow-up in 12 months on 2 issues out of, let's say, 30 issues we raise in the concluding observations. So, of course, we asked the UK to... Is it the follow-up on austerity measures, I think?
I think so, yeah. And 57, there are the points.
Ah, 45, 47, 59. Why do we never give the subject and just the para? That doesn't make sense. 7 is ICT technology.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to talk about this rather long list of recommendations for the United United Kingdom, longest ever apparently.
Yeah.
A bit more.
And I'm going to ask you 3, possibly 4 questions
There we go.
about your chief findings.
Great, okay. Quite happy with that.
Okay.
Shadowing if I can get to do it, but be careful with that.
Yeah, austerity is in the follow-up.
Yes, austerity. I think that's one thing it's a buzzword in the UK. So we will address that. Right, my hands and head.
So don't look. You need to look down to time, don't you, to check your notes?
I hope not.
It's just because I put a light there.
I hope not.
If you,
Okay.
yeah, if you can make.
Keep it.
Yeah.
We're not looking for
Okay, which
endless.
mic is moving a little bit? No, I think that's okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm rolling.
Okay. My first question then. How would you rate the UK's status at the moment? Improving? Static? Going backwards?
Well, we're afraid to say that UK is going backwards.
Sorry, can you say that again? I just had to sound a little bit too high at that point.
I'll ask you the question again.
We need to have it right, don't we?
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Okay, sorry, take 2 on that. Along board, how would you rate the UK's position towards the rights of people with disabilities? Going forward, static, going backwards?
I'm afraid we have to say it's going backward, and that's why our concluding observations were very long. We were very concerned about the UK, which claims to be a world leader on the rights of disabilities and the right of persons with disabilities. And I think it's right. UK is is the country where the social model was founded, was developed by the disability movement, and disability rights were mostly developed. But now we see a policy of austerity, especially in response to the financial crisis of 2008-2009, which discriminates against disabled people by taking away benefits which were supposed to help disabled people to live an independent life and to live a life equal to others. And that's what the convention says. And even in times of financial crisis, the human rights law says you have to look at where you make the cuts. You have to protect those people who are most vulnerable. And the numbers in front of which were posted in front of us by civil society, by disabled people's organization, were enormous. 500,000 people were taken out of benefit or had reduced their benefits, their social protection entitlements, in a way that they were becoming desperate. There were people who committed suicide because of that, and at the same time we heard, we had evidence in front of us saying that people were pushed into work who were not fit for work. And I said it in the dialogue, it is right to assume that disabled people are capable of working. We are not, in our committee, we pay a lot of attention to the human rights model of disability, which says that disabled people should be seen as capable of doing things. And so it is okay to say, let's put disabled people into work, but at the same time you have to take into account the vulnerability of disabled people, especially if they have psychosocial disabilities or if they are intellectually disabled.
Okay, could I just, I'm going to ask you, because that was really excellent, but you kind of answered all my questions in one.
Sorry.
If you know, it's okay, because we can edit, but I might just ask you to address a couple of those issues like in separate answers. I think my first question would be, you're particularly concerned about what you call austerity measures. What are your main issues about how that might be affecting people with disabilities?
The main issue that people were not reported to us, that they were not able to hire personal assistants anymore, that they had to rely on family members or people who would help them voluntarily. And that puts you in a situation of dependency, and also people were not able to go out anymore as much as they could not participate in cultural and public life. And the other big field where the austerity measures feeds in or plays a big role is education. We had lots of evidence in front of us, especially about Northern Ireland, that the education for disabled persons became very bad, that many children with disabilities which have challenging behaviors are excluded from schools, and the parents are left without any support. And then of course there was a cut in what was called the Independent Living Fund, which was supposed to help people live independently, and it was not substituted by adequate social protection. So people were either becoming homeless, or people were either becoming desperate in a way that they had to seek mental health services, or what we found, of course, most terrible, the reports about suicides by disabled people because of the cuts.
This is the longest list of conclusions and recommendations that this UN committee has ever issued to a particular country. What should that say to us about the United Kingdom and the rights of people with disabilities?
Well, it means that we've set the bar very high. I mean, it is a country which claims to be a world leader when it comes to disability rights, and right so, looking at the history of your country. But it's now going backward in a pace and to an amount that it worries us a lot, and it affects lots of areas of lives. And that's why the concluding observations, which in the initial report, which this was, touches upon all the articles in the convention, so it touched upon all the areas of life. And the evidence in front of us was overwhelming.
How does the UK compare to other countries, or perhaps other countries with comparable GDP?
Well, as I said, the UK is a model country when it comes to disability rights in terms of anti-discrimination, equality models, and so on. However, it is also the country where social protection was diminished to a certain extent, which became life-threatening to many disabled people. And so compared to other countries which have less economic power, austerity policy was less human rights oriented, whereas other countries which were also affected by financial crisis report to us that they did not cut any benefits for disabled persons. And so in that sense, UK appears to be a strong country when it comes to equal rights, but a very, very weak country with relation to economic, social and cultural rights.
On that issue, can I ask you how that might extrapolate to ordinary people and attitude? Because your report does contain concerns about stereotyping, bullying and discrimination.
We were very concerned about bullying of disabled kids in schools, and the evidence in front of us said nothing was really done about it. There needs to be a strategy against bullying in schools, and protection of disabled kids, and we found that it is not taking place. We also were surprised, if not irritated, by reports about disabled people being portrayed as parasites, living on social benefits and welfare and the taxes of other people. And that is very, very dangerous when it comes to disabled people, as we all know. And I think even though we would never, as a human rights treaty body, favor censorship, we think that media and the government have some responsibility in this regard. They need to protect disabled people against these kind of attitudes, which later on will lead to violence against disabled people. We know it. And if not to killings and euthanasia. So I am not saying that the UK is, this is happening right now in the UK, but this is why governments have to stop this kind of attitude. And while I don't want to say that disabled people are always nice and friendly and always victims, no, also disabled people can be perpetrators. And they must be made responsible for their, if they violate the law or if they abuse other people, which can also happen. But to portray disabled people as a group, as parasites, is really dangerous.
Okay, thank you very much.